everybody. Are you ready to go on a ride? I pulled into the church this morning and I saw the billboard, Piña Colada Faith, and I thought, it sounded better when I sent the email. And it reads on the... I wonder what people think we're doing in here today. I mean, they already think enough, right? What's old Piña Colada going to do to destroy their thoughts about us already? But no, the reason I have this title is because of a religious experience I had driving in my work truck a couple of weeks ago, and I thought I would share that with you today. I was driving home from work, and this familiar tune came on the radio. A tune that I had been listening to since it was released in 1979. Boom, 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 boom. And it's pretty much the whole theme, the whole melody of the song. Boom, 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 boom. And so I was just kind of in the mode of, yeah, I know this song. I've known it since I was a kid. I've known this since 1979 when I was 12 and 13 years old. Oh, yeah. My mom and dad would be so disappointed if they knew that I listened to that music at 12 and 13 years old. And something really struck me because it seems like for the first time in decades, I actually heard the first line of the song. Does anyone know the first line of the song? Can you quote it to me? I was tired of my lady. There's your hellfire and brimstone. You need it. I'll try not to be so loud the next time. I was tired of my lady. What an awful thing to say. I was like, Rupert Holmes, what were you thinking when you wrote this song? I was tired of my lady and you set it to music? What an awful thing to say. Maybe I was so offended by it because I've been in a committed relationship with the most amazing person that I think God ever created and put on this earth, Sean Thomas. I mean, come on, if you know him, you know that I am of all men blessed, right? Okay? I mean, if you don't know him, I'll look him up. Yeah, or ask those that do. But I was just thinking, I've known this guy for 13 years. I've been madly in love with him for 13 years. And there's no point in my life that I could imagine ever saying, I've grown tired of my man. I can't really relate to I've grown tired of my lady. But I could never write, I've grown tired of my man. I grew tired of my man. The relationship we have is wonderful. We laugh a lot. We cry a lot because we laugh a lot. We laugh until we cry. We've enjoyed our relationship so much, and we enjoy our faith walk together. And there's just no way in my mind I can understand growing tired of being with Sean Thomas. I can imagine growing old with Sean Thomas, but growing tired? No. I mean, come on. Grow tired? Put that in writing? But as the song plays out, you know the story, right? The song is basically a guy lying in bed at night reading the newspaper, right? He's reading the personals. Those of you who aren't old enough to know what personals are, Google it, okay? He's reading the personal section in the newspaper, and he comes across this person who wrote, if you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain and all these different things, if you like this, if you like that, if you like making love at midnight in the dunes of the Cape, all this stuff, reply to this message and we'll hook up. So not only was he lying in bed with his lady next to him, he was reading an ad that was encouraging him to commit adultery. What a crazy song. Right? And you know what he does? He responds. And he thinks he's something. He basically responds to everything. Yeah, I like that. I like this. Yeah, I like doing this. Yeah, let's hook up. So the song keeps on going, blah, 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 Piña Colada, blah. It's really called Escape. The name of the song is called Escape, but we call it the Piña Colada song. Maybe I should have said Escape Faith. Maybe that would have come across a little bit. I don't know. Well, we know how the song ends. They decide to hook up at a restaurant, right? Him and this mystery lover. And guess who walks through the door? His own lovely lady. So I have a question to ask you. Was he really tired of his lady? What was he tired of? Himself. Oh, I wasn't expecting that answer. That's awesome. He was tired of himself. He was tired of the routine. He was tired of the mundane, the daily ins and outs. When I was growing up, the most in-depth conversation, and Mom and Dad, if you're watching this, please don't hold it against me, but I know you're probably not watching it, so I feel pretty safe. I know the most in-depth conversation I ever heard my parents have was, what do you want from the store today? They knew their routine, right? And so all they really needed to ask about, what do you need from the store? Everything was just in a rhythm, and we go. And we do that at our house. We have a rhythm at our house. Sean makes his food, I make my food. Apparently what he does works out a lot better for him. But we have our routine, right? We have our routine. At 6 o'clock, we're going to watch the evening news, and then we'll watch some program on Netflix or something that we want to do. You know, we have the routine. We walk the dog at a certain time. We feed the dog at a certain time. And in between, we laugh, we cut up, we just have fun together. We enjoy. You know, we wash dishes, we wash clothes. We do what married people do, right? It's kind of exciting, isn't it? I mean, why would people protest against that? I mean, really? My cousin Johnny's like, when he came to stay with us the first time, he was like, well, y'all just as normal as anybody. Sorry, we de-gayed the house before you got here. We'll bring the mirrored ball back out as soon as you leave. But what? He wasn't tired. This guy wasn't tired of his lady. He was tired of the routine. He was tired of the same old, same old. Do we ever get that way? Do you? And I think a lot of people do that with faith. Our readings today give us two examples. The speaker in Revelation was talking to the church and saying, hey, you do all the good stuff. You're fighting injustice. You're standing up for those who are poor. You're not tolerating false teachers among you. But I've got something against you. And that something is you've lost your first love. Kind of sounds like I was tired of my lady. You've lost your first love. And then the encouragement is rediscover that love. If you don't rediscover that love, I'm going to take your candle stand away. And what it was basically saying is, if you don't rediscover your passion for God, if you don't rediscover what it is that brought you, then you're going to lose your influence in the world around you. And then Jesus was kind of cornered by the religious folks in his world, and they were basically saying, okay, Jesus, you're so smart. Tell us what the greatest commandment is. What is God's greatest law? And Jesus basically says, love God with everything in you. Just love God with all your heart, your soul, your might, your intelligence, your prayer. Love God with all of that. And the second commandment is just like it. Love others as you love yourself. And I love the way the Message puts this. These are two pegs. These commandments are two pegs on which all the law and the prophets hang. Without those two commandments, all the other stuff is just stuff. Right? So is it possible that in our walk with God, we don't really get tired of God, we don't really get tired of Jesus, but we get tired of all the stuff? It's a funny thing. When you're in church leadership, in any kind of church leadership position, especially if you serve on the board. What? I've noticed through the years that people who serve on the board see how sausage is made. Right? They see how the sausage is made. They don't just see all of the stuff that you all see on a Sunday morning with the music and the preaching. They see all the, well, how are we going to pay this bill? Well, did you know that Brother John said this? John, if you're here today, we're not talking about you. I'm just throwing out John. Just throwing the name. Did you know what he did? And all we've got to deal with this. Ooh, it's a crisis. You see how the sausage is made. You see all the stuff. Can I get a witness? Amen. And it's kind of funny when you see people leave the Lord, sometimes they leave the church. Why is that? Because they've peered behind the curtain. They've peered behind the curtain, and somehow, in that process, it became about all the stuff and not about the reason that we exist. Are you with me? So I want to encourage you today to not let the stuff get you down. And one of the reasons that this has been in the forefront of my mind is recently there have been several evangelical Christian influencers who have come out and denied Christianity or renounced Christianity. One of them was a pastor of a mega church who, in his early years, in his early 20s, wrote a book called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And basically, in this book, he was basically saying is you should not have marital relations until you're married. And you need to stop all this dating and heavy petting and all the stuff that you do on Friday nights, young men and women. And he was basically telling young people that sell it down, cool jets. Anybody grow up in a church like that? It's not all bad. It's awful. But then recently, he just came out and said, everything I wrote in that book, I don't believe anymore. And not only that, my wife and I are getting divorced, and I'm not a Christian anymore. And the first thing he did pretty much after releasing this statement was go to an LGBTQ plus. I keep forgetting all the letters and stuff. Come on in. There's room for y'all, right? He went to a pride parade and basically started telling people, I'm so sorry that I've mistreated you through the years. I'm so sorry that I've supported doctrines that hurt you and alienated you. I am so sorry that I held to the beliefs that I held to for so long. The next person was Marty Sampson. Now, Marty Sampson is a worship songwriter. Hillsong. We've probably sung several of his songs in this church. He decided that he could no longer call himself a Christian, that he was losing his religion. And one of the most prominent people that I recall losing her religion and renouncing her faith, and this may sound strange to you, but this happened in 2010, not too long ago, for those of us who have been around a while. 2010 was just yesterday, right? 2010, Anne Rice, the writer of the Vampire Chronicles. Those books are awesome, aren't they? Well, after writing the Vampire Chronicles, she became a Christian. She became a Roman Catholic. She embraced the religion of her childhood. And then in 2010, she goes, I've had enough of this mess. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. What is funny to me, and what is not funny to me, but what is really satisfying to me, is that all three of these people that I've mentioned, not one of them said, I'm renouncing Jesus. They all said, I'm renouncing Christianity. Why? Because they grew tired of the stuff. They grew tired of the dogma. They grew tired of the rites, the rituals, the these and thous, and the thou shalls and the thou shalt not. And they realized how Christianity was representing Christ in the world was nothing like Christ is. Hello? So, I get that. I came to a place in my life where I felt like I was an atheist because I despised all the stuff. I got focused on the sausage making rather than feeding the sausage to people. I got focused on all the mechanics rather than focusing on the one who called me to love my neighbor as myself. I got focused on how we use this word or not use that word, and do this and don't do that, grow this and don't grow that, wear this and don't wear that. For Pete's sake, don't cut your hair. Focused on all of that. And you know what? When you look at all that stuff, you can't see Jesus anywhere in it. Because all of that stuff works to separate and to divide us. Hello? How many of you love hymns? How many of you love worship songs? How many of you love worship songs that go on and on? Everybody said I love worship songs, but then when I said how many of you love worship songs that go on and on, no, one or two people raised their hand. How many of you like formality with people dressed in robes and stoles? You like that? You want me to slip my pulpit dress on? I like it. I think there's some fun. There's some point. There's good. There's tradition. There's, you know. But how many of you does it bother if you see it or don't? We were laughing. Someone this morning was worried about what they were wearing and how that would impact them being able to minister in communion. And we were like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I remember growing up that if my grandmother had long hair, had very, very long hair, it was down to the floor. And she worried that if she did not keep her long hair, she was going to dishonor God, because the scriptures say that your hair is your glory. Ladies, your hair is your glory. What an awful scripture. Your hair is your glory. What? What if your hair has decided to turn loose and gray at the same time? So my grandmother would take this long hair, put it in a beehive or a bun or a knot, pull it all back right here. I bet it weighed 30 pounds. As she aged, she began to have terrible headaches. Awful headaches. Oh, I've got a brain tumor. Grandma, you don't have a brain tumor. Oh, something's wrong with me. My head just aches. So have you been to the doctor? No, because going to the doctor is a sign of a lack of faith. Y'all just have no idea. Oh my goodness. So my grandma finally went to the doctor, and the doctor said, Miss Garrett, if you cut that mess of hair off your head, your headaches will go away. So she went and proved that she had lost her religion and got a permanent. Oh, it's almost like wearing pants. But she told the preacher, I got a doctor's note. And I remember looking at her as she was lying in state in her casket, that beautiful permed hair. And I thought to myself, Grandma, how long did you suffer because of all of that stuff? I'm going to tell you something. We laugh and we joke about it. I love joking about it because I think sometimes that's the only way I can keep from crying. But some of the things that I learned in doing that stuff and holding to that stuff brought me closer to God and closer to other people. There's nothing wrong with tradition. There's nothing wrong with ritual. There's nothing wrong with rites. There's nothing wrong with all of the stuff. But if that becomes our God, and we lose focus on who Christ is and Christ's call in our life and how we're to reach the world with God's love, then yeah, it is a problem. And yeah, we can grow tired with Our Lady. Don't know what that means. Several years ago, through the medium of Facebook, What a blessing and a curse. Several people reached out to me that knew me from my past when I was a young pastor and a young evangelist. And they would say things like to me like, we are concerned about your soul. We're devastated that you have backslidden on the Lord. And you have decided to pursue this wicked path. And one of them specifically told me, you have left your faith. And I responded, no, I left your faith. I think it's important that all of us in our journey understand that there's a time when we accept things as not important to our walk with God, and that there are some things that are just absolutely fundamental and we cannot compromise on. And I'm telling you, the older I get, the more I realize the stuff in this hand gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and it all comes down to those two things: love God and love people.
Amen.
And beyond that, there's not too much that I'm willing to argue over. I mean, I will argue that Clemson is better than Alabama. But that has nothing to do with God. Right? So, if you're struggling with your faith, I want to encourage you. One, don't run from that struggle. If you've got questions, there's nothing wrong with you to have questions. Questions are amazing because when we ask questions, what might we get? You ever heard the saying, there's no dumb questions? It's true. Especially when it comes to ideas of faith. We serve a God that created everything that is. Our star, our sun is 93 million miles away. None of us own a vehicle that can get us there. Right? The closest sun to that is trillions of miles away. No, none of us have a car that will get us there. We can't even fathom that distance. It's so far that we call it light years. That's how we measure distance in space, right? So if we serve a God that is that huge, that big, that encompassing, do you think that God is going to be offended by our questions? No. Ask them. Ask them. Don't be afraid to walk that journey. When you are pursuing God with honesty and integrity, my folks, my friends, God will always respond with grace and love and kindness and acceptance and mercy. You've got plenty of room to figure things out. God is huge. God is way bigger than our petty thoughts. So don't run from the questions, and always seek answers with honesty and integrity, and then surround yourself with people that will give you the space and the safety to ask those questions. Amen? Now, like many of you, like I did, I discovered that I was just tired of the stuff. I was tired of the religion. And I came to find out that what I was looking for was what I already had. Just like the guy in the song. I'd grown tired of the routine and I was looking for something else. And you know who walked through that door? The same Jesus, the same God who had always loved me. But I just lost that God and all the mess of religion. And guess what? I'm here to tell you about it today. God is good. God is loving. God is kind. God is accepting. God sees who you are, and God loves you for who you are. God knows who you are. God sees where you are. And God is just like, hey, I've been waiting on you. So, I want to leave you with this scripture that's from Revelations 21. The character of God in this chapter said to the writer, the one who was having this vision, "See, I am making all things new." So if your walk with God is stale and old, throw it out. Because the God I serve, and the God that I want to share with you today and encourage you with today is always making things new. So if stuff is stale in your faith walk, maybe it's because you're focusing on how the sausage is made rather than just enjoying the breakfast. God bless you.